What's up, everybody? It is Deibs, Mr. Crockpot on Twitter. Welcome to Suit Up. The Suit Up podcast can be found on iTunes and Spotify. Smash those 5 stars. Leave a review. If you're watching us on YouTube, make sure to hit like and subscribe below. Today, we're going to recap Mandalorian Chapter 2, The Child. Joining us today, we have Jack Connell, Baby Yoda stan. Follow him on Twitter at Jack Connell TPL. How you doing, Jack?
I'm doing great. I've always been talking sports six with you guys. I'm ready to talk some Star Wars, get some other types of stuff here.
I know, baby. As the Sixers kind of have collapsed, like the Star Wars kind of with Disney Plus have kind of just taken over all the pain that's come with the Sixers fall the last week, right?
I would say so, yeah. It's definitely been a great reliever, get my mind off of all that. Like, hey, watch The Mandalorian.
It's been a really good week for Star Wars fans because they also had Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order come out. That game looks incredible. I only have a Nintendo Switch, but I think Saturday night, my wife and my baby were both asleep. So what do you think I did? I looked up all the boss fights on YouTube.
It looks great, yeah. I'm not going to say anything about it, but everything I've seen just looks fantastic. Another piece of the lore for Star Wars.
I'm a huge A, Dark Souls fan, and B, Uncharted fan. And it looks like the best of both worlds. So exactly. Boss fights are completely Dark Souls. You know, you're flinging this like lightsaber around, man. It looks really, really fun. I'm super jealous about people that have like the PlayStations and stuff. I love my Nintendo Switch. Don't get me wrong. I love my Marios and all that. But wow, that looks good. Today we're going to do a quick top favorite moments of Mandalorian Chapter 2, and then we're going to get into some kind of major key questions and talk about what we expect with Chapter 3. Ready to get started, Jack?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
Let's do it. My first favorite moment of Chapter 2 has to start out with Baby Yoda. And what I mean by Baby Yoda, I mean, holy shitballs, this is going to be the biggest toy for Christmas imaginable. The first thought I had was when Guardians of the Galaxy came out, and you had Baby Groot at the very end. Do you remember that movie, man?
Yeah, I've seen Guardians of the Galaxy. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and you had like Baby Groot. That's my whole vibe with this Baby Yoda. I have not found it on Amazon yet, but the second that I can buy a Baby Yoda plush to go along with my Star Wars collection here on my couch, that's happening. What are your favorite moments, man?
Baby Yoda. That's everything about that. Even just I just like to. We'll get into this more. The desert as planet that might be a familiar place to us. I am just in love with the cinematic, the amount of special effects, everything, the CGI. It just looks incredible. I just love the scenery, every single thing about it. I'm usually not one for these dramatic TV shows, but this is just something else. It looks incredible. It looks like a Star Wars movie. It doesn't even look like the budget's dropped off at all. It looks absolutely downright incredible. And that's been one of mine. It's not even a story thing. It's just the scenery. It's just fantastic.
The tone is perfect, man. It feels like you're watching it. We during our last Mandalorian Chapter 1, we kind of all agreed that it's like a perfect mix of like A New Hope and Empire. And it's just, if they had a baby, like that would be this. And it's just a grounded, beautifully shot Star Wars story. I couldn't be happier. And speaking of grounded, we both all agreed on Chapter 1 review that we weren't going to see Baby Yoda utilize the Force until probably the end of the episode, the series. And wow, we were wrong. What was your reaction to Baby Yoda's Force lift on that like Star Wars Rhino?
I thought we would get some glimpses of it. I didn't think we would see it all out of strength right away. Now, I think the Yoda is a baby. Yoda is also, wherever we will call it Baby Yoda, is 50-some years old, like they said in the pilot. I didn't expect this amount of force sensitivity, strength right off the bat, but just the story with Yoda, even in just a regular story, just how in touch he is with the Force. Who knows? The species you really haven't seen much outside of Phantom Menace, the other Yodas in the world. I think you're going to see that they are very in touch with the Force, and that's going to be a very main part of the storyline. That's just my prediction as to where this is.
There are so many big looming questions with this. First and foremost, the relationship between Mando and Baby Yoda takes center stage here. I think we can all, pretty much assume that that's going to be, the number one plot is Mandalorian and Baby Yoda and where that's going, because there's going to be some big decision making coming up in Chapter 3 very soon, which we're going to talk a little bit later. Another one of my favorite goes, kind of piggybacks off of your tone point. And I don't know if you remember this, man, but right at the very end, sadly, we saw that IG-11's not in this episode. I was very upset about that. He was my top highlight in Chapter 1. That dynamic between Mando and IG-11 was perfect. I thought, because you saw all this like droid bias from Mando, and I thought for sure that IG-11 was coming back. It didn't happen. But Chapter 2 starts pretty quickly following the events of Chapter 1. And what do we see? We're seeing this like sprawling adventure of something like from Indiana Jones, something from like Blade Runner or just Uncharted, like this adventure film. You have this like hauntingly beautiful piano score in the background, and they're like traversing, almost like Lord of the Rings, man. They're like going to like take that ring from Mordor, but nah. But it was just, I just had so many goosebumps in this episode. Any other favorite moments you want to talk about?
I mean, like, you had to touch on the score. I forget his name, but his helper that he has on the planet, do you remember his name? Was it?
It's like Quill or something like that.
He's just, his character, the tone, he kind of has like that wise old man that knows the land. He seemed like a great character. He was very well done. I liked how they were able to get a lot done without saying not many words to start off the episode. It was very kind of quiet, just musical scores, the environment. There really wasn't much communication going on because Mandalorian, he's not a very many guy of emotion. He wears a helmet. You don't see his face. You really rarely hear him talk. And the amount of emotion they're able to convey without really even using much dialogue, I think is fascinating.
Yeah, it's that you got to give a lot of chops to the directing and the main actor. It's Pedro. I was drawing a blank. Pedro Pascual or something. But the fact that he's fully in armor and you don't see his face is amazing. That how much emotion can be portrayed from that. And let's talk about you got to talk about that Kuel character, and that was a really cool moment because he's doing all of this for what, a thank you at the very end of the episode. You see Baby Yoda like reaching out and protecting Mando. I think all of these little bits and pieces are going to have a huge effect in Chapter 3 because Mando's trying to play strong. He's trying to be a Mandalorian. He's not trying to give that affection to Baby Yoda. We saw that when Baby Yoda was trying to do that like force heal on his wound from that earlier fight in beginning of Chapter 2. I think that's everything moving forward. Lastly, I got to talk a little bit about this because I had this in my review of Chapter 1 and Chapter 2. Was this TV show is so much like an RPG, and in the beginning we have like awesome companions. We have this like awesome like driving narrative. In Chapter 2, what do we got, man? We got a side mission to get an egg, a rhino egg. This is 100% Skyrim. Am I wrong?
You're completely right. About to be going into the mines and everything.
I love it. It felt like I was playing a video game. Just another compliment of the show. And then let's talk a little bit moving forward. Let's talk about the planet. The return of the Jawas. Did that confirm that we were currently on planet Tatooine? What are your thoughts on that?
It just seems too so. I mean, I don't know personally much about the Jawas. Maybe they inhabit a lot of desert-esque planets. I don't know what their colonization is, but I mean, it screams Tatooine, the desert landscape, the Jawas, everything about it. Enemies at every corner that aren't exactly stormtroopers. They're just enemies of the land. It very well could be. I mean, I've definitely have to take a look back in the episodes and kind of get a second look. But the idea is there. I mean, it definitely very well could be Tatooine. We just have to wait for the twin suns.
I know, right? It looked very close. I love the Jawas were a really cool, nice touch in Chapter 2, especially at the end when they have Mando and Baby Yoda. Mando almost died, getting this egg, and then he gives the egg to the Jawas, and the Jawas, what do? They rip it open and start like eating it almost like it's a drug, and they start dancing around. That was like the comedic, I guess,
Is
element.
that the most characterization we've seen out of Jawas in this entire canon of all Star Wars? I mean, I don't think we've ever really even seen subtitles of Jawa communication with anybody before, even before this episode.
Yeah, it was a really nice touch. Next up, let's talk about the episode only being 32 minutes long. Were you disappointed at that at all? That's been kind of getting the show's been getting a little slack on social media about that.
I think the main thing is quality over quantity. If your story only needs to be told in 32 minutes, there's no need to make it 40. Don't fill it up with meaningless stuff. You still have what, 8 or so episodes left? You can probably, I mean, some of them might be longer than the expected runtime. Whatever you need to convey the story is fine. I mean, it was perfectly done. I felt it was great. So, I mean, I don't think there's any reason for it to be longer than it needed to be.
I also enjoyed it too. I mean, the pacing's there. We're moving. The story is absolutely moving forward. Next up, let's give a grade 0 to 10, 10 being perfect. How would you grade Chapter 2, man?
I'll give it a 9.2.
Ooh, I was at a 9.5 in my review. I was the highest. My grade was the highest during our Chapter 1 review. I guess I'm the highest one again, but it's obviously I'm a huge fan. But yeah, I mean 9.2, 9.5. These are really really good scores. Ready to talk a little bit about Chapter 2?
I'm ready to talk about some chapter 3.
Ready to talk about Chapter 3, man?
I'm ready to talk to chapter 3.
All right, so we know Baby Yoda has Force Lift. He has Force Heal. What kind of Star Wars Jedi powers do you want to see Baby Yoda show in Chapter 3?
I think maybe just some inner, like, mind force stuff. I mean, I really don't think you're going to see many physical strength. Obviously, you can see Baby Yoda isn't physically there yet with its ability to use the Force. I mean, just use a basic Force lift. Granted, it was a huge animal. It took him out for a couple of days, and we all know I don't know how much time actually passed, but I think you'll see a lot more of the mental and emotional sides of the Force. I don't think you'll really see much physical capabilities done just yet. That's my opinion. That's my prediction.
Could you imagine if he goes, "This is not the Mandalorian you're looking for"?
Can he even speak it?
That'd be awesome. Obviously, we're not going to get like Force chokehold or anything like that, but I think it's off to a good start. I'd like to see them tone it down a little bit. I don't. It might sound a little crazy. I want to see character building, take the forefront these next few episodes. That's what I want to see. I mean, the action scenes, the Force has been really, really good these first 2 episodes, but I really want a deep dive into Mando and Baby Yoda. So next up, what do you think is the First Order's intentions and motivations to collect Baby Yoda as an asset? What are your first thoughts?
So I believe they have to have known about Yoda. I mean, even though they really didn't see much of him in the original trilogy, I mean the sequel trilogy, he's talked about a good amount with Emperor and everything, obviously with that whole lore. I believe they know that he's not the Yoda species isn't immortal. They live for long periods of time and they are very sensitive to the Force, as we've seen with all 3 of our Yoda appearances throughout the series. I think it's something to do with either the Force or the ability to live long within their genes, something along those 2 lines. Now, the thing that I thought was interesting is that professor that or whatever he was, a scientist that was on that base, the patch, the clone patch.
Yes, sir.
Maybe some of the Camino, who knows?
Cloning?
I think, maybe some cloning, being able to reproduce something that would be able to use the Force sensitivity, anything like that. That's my prediction.
I'm definitely leaning towards the cloning piece. How much does it have to do with Palpatine? I can't wait, man. That reveal is going to be wild because we know that there's going to be an episode after the release of The Rise of Skywalker. So how does it tie in? I think there's clearly something going on with Baby Yoda that the First Order wants. I guess he doesn't need to be alive or dead because we saw that in Chapter 1. That's what I think. I think they're going to find a way to tie in Palpatine. I mean, we know Boba Fett was a clone. There's so much debate out there. If you want to, do a deep dive and lose several hours about Rey being a clone. There's a lot of that out there. So I don't know. That's why I think I'm really digging this show, because you don't really know what to expect. There's a lot of mysteriousness about this show, and I'm really, really loving. Let's talk a little bit. And speaking of mysteriousness, the Mandalorian has a soft side. Do you think this Mando character is a real Mandalorian? Go ahead, man.
I think so. He's definitely touched on his history in his past. I think he's a true Mandalorian. Maybe it's just a soft spot. Who knows? Maybe some of his backstory as to why there's a soft spot Baby Yoda. Maybe it's because it's a Force-sensitive baby that he just feels his right to not be in the hands of the Empire just is done right. That's my take on it. At least I think there's really no reason to suspect he isn't a Mandalorian. Maybe by the end of the series he'll go against his ways, or maybe I don't know. I think that's just something we'll see. But I think he is a true Mandalorian.
I don't think he is. I think all signs point to he's got this soft side. He's got he's got a lot of heart, and he clearly has a connection to Baby Yoda. We saw through his flashbacks that he was also abandoned as a child. We need to know more about when and how that occurred, and I hope we get into that more. Maybe instead of dropping off Baby Yoda with the First Order and the client, maybe he hands to Mandalore and deals with that there. However, he doesn't have his full armor. Could that be tied into it? Maybe. I don't know. There's so many questions. But I right now, I don't think he's a true Mandalore. I think that he's like, I think that's going to kind of come into like full front, like in this show very, very soon. Lastly, we already got that one. Okay. Lastly, we're going to talk about, what could happen in Chapter 3. Mando is about to face a huge, major decision where he's going to deliver Baby Yoda. Jack, does he deliver it, or what's your kind of prediction with that?
I think he's going to deliver it and have a change of heart and try to go against what he did initially. That's my take on it. I think because he'll want the reward and he'll take it, and then once he gets his reward, he's gonna be like, "What have I done?" And he's gonna have regrets, and then he's gonna try to go back. I don't know how it's gonna go from there, but that's my prediction.
I fully agree. I think something's going to go wrong, and this show will kind of then evolve into a Baby Yoda and Mando on the run type of series. I think they go to Mandalore and find out that all of that trouble passed with the Mandalorian and why he's not accepted into their culture and society. Then we have a Mandalorian and First Order are trying to get Baby Yoda, and they're like fighting both sides, right? I think that's what's going to happen. That's my personal opinion. Any last comments before we wrap this up, man?
I can't wait for episode 3. I mean, this show's got me on the hook. I wish it was just Netflix and they all came out at once.
I know, right? Kills you. The next Chapter 3 comes out on Friday morning. Make sure you check out thepaintedlines.com for reviews and everything The Mandalorian. For Jack, check him out on Twitter at JackConnellTPL. I'm Deibs. Thanks for watching, guys. Stay awesome.